Okay, so I'm trying to see these different doctors to get greenlit for anesthesia to graft the ulcer on my left foot, which was the bigger one, and maybe we could heal the one on my right foot. Well, my podiatrist was going on vacation in March, so it was going to be a couple of weeks before I could see her again. And then I got sick, and my folks had just gotten over a bug. My kiddo catches every bug that comes through school, so I just rolled with it. But it got worse, and it got worse, and it wouldn't go away, and it wouldn't go away. And I was changing the bandages on my feet like I was supposed to, taking care of the ulcers, and nothing looked amiss. But come the very first week of April, I am so sick I can barely stand. And my feet still didn't look, not normal. But I knew something was wrong. So I called 911 and called an ambulance into my local hospital. And lo and behold, I had severe septic shock. I was very highly septic. The doctors at the hospital said, you maybe had another 24, 48 hours on the outside before you were just done. I spent a week in intensive care, ICU, before I went out to the regular floor. I still had my old port in from when I was doing chemotherapy and immunotherapy, and they removed that because it could be a source of infection. And the second toe on my right foot started to turn black with necrosis. So they amputated that second toe, and I was in the hospital 2 more weeks. They sent me to a rehab. I was in the rehab for a week before going back to the hospital with necrosis on my big toe and my third toe. The podiatrist that I had started out with had switched me to the lead podiatrist in her office because he knew more, she said. She was still a better doctor in my opinion. But I was not happy with the care I was receiving from this podiatrist, but, at the time, I was just going with it. I had infection again, I had necrosis again. I had to go back to the hospital, and I had my big toe and my third toe amputated. And then I was left with just the fourth toe and the little toe on the outside of my right foot. So then I go back into the rehab for a month. And it's looking like it's healing, then it's not. Then it's looking like it's healing, then it's not. The larger ulcer that was on my left foot, they grafted and was healing fine. I go back into the hospital. Well, I go back to the podiatrist at the end of a month. And he says, yeah, your last 2 toes are infected. So we want to do a transmetatarsal amputation. And that's basically where they amputate, half of your foot. And I've been through so much already. They sent me back to the hospital, and I wanted a second opinion. I wanted a different doctor. I was fed up with this guy. He was doing the same thing every week. I would go to him, and he would debride my foot, but he wouldn't just debride my foot. He would take a scalpel, and he would hack at my foot like he was mad at it. And then I would bleed for 2 days, sometimes 3, and it just never would seem to heal. Like, he was not propagating healing on my foot. He was just making it worse. So I switched to a doctor with a much better reputation, a reputation for saving lost causes. But at this point, there was no saving my foot. At least not the whole foot. We had to do the transmetatarsal amputation. So I did the transmetatarsal amputation back in July of 2024. So, straight across my foot, halfway back, boom, gone. I fought like hell to save as much of my foot as I could so that I could go back to as normal a life as I could, and that I could still drive, without having to make any weird adjustments, because I have a son that I have to be responsible for, and I have a life that I am largely responsible for because I don't have anybody else. I'm still at the point where I just have my elderly parents and my one friend that lives an hour away, and then I have one neighbor that I can call a friend, and that he has helped me out some. But like my other friend, he has a life, he has responsibilities. I can't be laying up on these people. I have to take care of my life. It is my responsibility. So I do the transmetatarsal amputation. I go back to the rehab again for another month of IV antibiotics. And then I get out of the rehab in September of 24. And I have been struggling to recover. Throughout the hospital rehab stay, I lost 50 pounds of body weight, which was mostly muscle mass because I was not overweight to begin with. My body began to atrophy. I was forced to stay in bed so long. I still am nowhere near anything like what I was. I still am, you really can't tell my face, but I'm still very, very thin and on the frail side. I can, wrap my fingers around my ankle and almost touch my middle finger to my thumb, and I can do the same with my wrist and overlap my middle finger and my thumb. I lost a lot. And of course, because Murphy loves my ass, pardon my French, all this infection and all these antibiotics caused a lot of damage to my eyes. I went into the hospital in April of 24, being able to see, mostly normal. I had a little bit of diabetic retinopathy, mostly just standard deterioration to go along with diabetes. But I could see to function, I could see to drive, all that. Within the first week of being in the hospital, I was nearly blind. And I have now severe diabetic retinopathy because the infection and the antibiotics kept my blood sugar levels so high, or on such a roller coaster at all times for so long, that the retinopathy did a lot of damage. And now I also have some macular degeneration. I see double. My eyes are no longer in sync. Things are closer and higher to the right in my right eye, and farther away and lower to the left in my left eye. So I see double. And I did have this line of scarring across my right eye that made the vision in my right eye kind of bifurcated. So I was weirdly kind of seeing double out of my right eye, and then double from both eyes. So I'm seeing kind of triple. My eyes do not capture light as well as they used to, so everything is much dimmer than in what it once was. And my vision is extremely blurry. I am currently trying to go to a ophthalmologist to correct this through LASIK and injection treatments to get my eyes back to a point where I can at least wear a pair of glasses and see normally, function normally, drive, all that good stuff. I'm having a serious problem though right now financially, because I have Medicare, but it's not full Medicare. It doesn't pay for everything. I have to pay entirely for my Part B out of pocket, which is very difficult. And I don't have Medicaid. I have medically needy through Medicaid, which they only allot me so much money every month, and they still don't cover everything, pay for everything. The only the only thing I have that is completely covered so far, and thank God, are my medications, my prescriptions. Because if I had to pay for that stuff, I'd be up the creek without a paddle. And I am getting hung up with copays for this eye doctor because it's costing me about $100 every appointment, and I have to go every 2 weeks for injections and LASIK surgery, LASIK treatment. I was supposed to go this last Friday for LASIK, but I had to reschedule it because I just didn't have the money to make the copayment. And if you can't make the copayment, then they're not going to deal with you. So unfortunately, I desperately need help with that. And the reason I started the GoFundMe was to help with medical bills in the first place and help me get back on my feet after, adjusting to these amputations. I had a total of 8 surgical procedures in